Okay, welcome to phase 2 of this Android app development journey. In this session, we're going to be diving deep into Android Studio, learning how Android Studio works, learning how to create a very basic fundamental app simply by creating a screen and a button that launches another screen. So I'm going to be going through this by making you create the button, make the button launch a new screen, and then at the end we're going to be creating 8 new buttons for our future sessions. Um, I hope you are also doing your homework, which is really simple, just learning Java or Kotlin from codeacademy.com. You're going to need this programming language on this journey. Like I said during my last session, I recommend Java, but if Kotlin is your thing, that's cool as well. I will always have the Java and Kotlin snippets side by side. But this tutorial is going to be based on Java, but the Kotlin implementations will always be here if that's what you choose. So let's dive in. So I believe you've downloaded Android Studio by now. You've set it up. So this session we're going to be creating our first app. So let's do that. Okay, so I have my Android Studio here. Come on, show. There you go. I'm gonna click it. It's loading. Okay, so I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to click empty activity because this will give us a very simple start. So I'm going to click empty activity out of all these options. Okay, and then I'll click next. Let's call this app seed because we are planting a seed for our future. So let's call it seed, and let's leave this one blank. By the way, this will be when you're about to create an app that you plan to actually publish on the store. You might want to change the package name, or when you're starting the project, change the package name to something unique, like maybe com dot, maybe your last name, like maybe what's a random last name? Let's say Steven, com dot Steven, lowercase Steven, and then dot the actual app name. So, but for now, I'll leave it as default com dot example. Okay. So this is kind of like this will eventually inherit the app ID on the App Store. Then leave every other thing as it is. Leave Java as it is because this tutorial will be based on Java. But if you prefer Kotlin, no problem. But I prefer Java, so I'll leave this as Java. And then leave everything else as they are, and then click next. So the two things we changed is, the one thing we changed is the app name, which we named to seed. And then we proceed and click finish. Okay, so it's loading. It's gonna take a few seconds. It's loading. Okay, so we're done now. All right, so at the top left here is our app. This is our main app folder, and below that we have a folder called manifest, Java, and res. Res means resources. Now the ones I want you to focus on for now is the one that says Java and the one that says resources. Okay, that's the one we're gonna focus on for now. So Java contains the logic of your app, and resources folder contains the visual, the screen designs, the images, the MP3 files, the resources of your app. So whenever you're looking for the actual code, you should go to the Java folder. And whenever you're looking for the visual, like the design, you should go to the res folder. Now, under the Java folder, the first folder there, which is the main one, you can ignore the other one, they're just tests. The first one, which is the major one, under there you have your actual activity Java file. Now in Android, the activity is pretty much their way of saying a page. So every screen you see on Android is an activity. So in Android we call it, every screen you see on Android is called an activity in code. So here in Android it's always under the main folder of your app. In this case we call this first one main activity because this is the one that Android created by default. It's called main activity. Always remember this. Okay, and then for the, this is the, like I said, this is the logic, and this is it. You're seeing here main activity.java, and then under the resources folder, let me show you the visual, the design of this main activity, the first screen of the app. It's going to be under the layout folder. Under the layout folder. So if you expand the layout, you will see activity main. This is the visual for our main activity.java. That's activity main. So I'm going to click that and show you what it looks like. So it's pretty much a blank screen with a giant, with a text view at the center. I will get to this in a second. So that's our visual. This is our visual, and this in the Java folder, this one is the logic. Is the logic behind that visual. So at the top here is a tabbed section that you can easily access them as well. So every file you click here, you can access from here. So we have activity, the visual, and our activity XML, the visual, and then the Java component, which is the logic. So the visuals are usually come with an extension of an XML because they are an XML file, and the code comes with an extension of Java because they are a Java file. Java is a programming language, which is what I told you to be learning from Code Academy here, if you remember. So so the next thing I'm going to show you is pretty much I'm going to take you around the main components that you need to know what they do here in Android Studio. The first one I'm going to show you is this play button. This is the button you click when you want to run the app on an emulator or on your connected phone. And then the next one I'm going to show you is this Avd Manager. So before this button would work, you would first of all need to create an AVD, which is a virtual device. I'll get into this before we run the test of the app. So these are the two things you need to know for now. And then lastly is the build log. So every now and then you will get errors. Sorry, I can't promise you that you will not get errors because it's part of the process. And whenever you get errors in the build, it's going to show up here. And usually your savior is, if you can't understand why the error, or if you can't diagnose the error from the message here, usually your savior is to Google the title of that error. If the error says we couldn't build because of this and this, just copy that message, that build message, copy it, and go into Google and search it. Most of the time you will find solutions. Now, what about if you get a very long error? Just copy the most essential part of that error, the most meaningful one, and Google it. And most of the time you will find solutions to that error. So keep that in mind as this journey progresses. Okay, now let's go ahead and let me show you where this project is located. So this is the seed project. We just created it. You watched me do that. What about where this project is located on the file system? So when you go to your files, it's usually under the Android Studio projects folder. To find that, click go to, depending on the computer you're on, but just click my computer and then open up your computer, go to users, your name, and then you're going to see a folder called Android Studio Projects. It's in this folder that you'll find all the projects you've created. So remember that, because sometimes you might need to make backups or copy a specific file or all those good stuff. But yeah, personally I do backups on my computer and online. So depending on the size of your project, you don't always want to rely on your computer for forever, because things can go wrong. Okay, so this is done. Let's go back to Android Studio. So our goal for today is to create our first screen. We already have one generated by Android Studio. So let's go ahead and make a button clickable on this screen, our main activity. So at the top left here, we have our palette of tools, buttons, widgets, text views. For now, let's start very simple. On the command, let's click button, and let's drag the button inside the screen. Let's put it up here. Okay, and let's increase the size a little bit. Okay, I think that's big enough for now. All right, now let's change the button text to screen 2. Let's change the button text to screen 2. So let's find the text attributes over here. Perfect. So let's change it to screen 2. This is because this button is going to eventually launch screen 2. Okay, now that we have the button, we need to set the location of this button, because right now it is here, but this is a fake location. We still need to assign constraints to it so that it can actually lock into position when the actual app is launched. So to do that, let's let me use this one. Let's by the way, this and this is the same. This just helps you have a better contrast of what you're doing. Let's drag this to the edge of the screen, and let's drag this one to the edge of the screen as well. And lastly, let's drag this one to the edge of the screen up here. And then let's bring this one to the bottom of the screen. Okay, so now we have it centered. Okay. So what we just did is we added constraints. These constraints determine where our widgets are positioned in space. Okay, this helps a lot, because when we maybe use a different screen size, it helps to still allocate that widget in that approximate location. Okay, so right now this button is overlapping a text view below. I'm going to move that text view. Let me click this. This is the text view. I'm going to move it up here and then bring our button back down. By the way, in case you don't have this text view by default, this is the text view. You can drag it in. Or you know what, let me get rid of this and bring in a fresh one. I'm gonna click on it and press backspace. Okay, so I want this button to be here. Then let's bring in a text view. Click it, drag it in. Let's put it at the top here. All right, so now I'm going to increase the size of our text view. Let me make this bigger. Okay, now let's add constraints. We can never forget that. Oh, by the way, you only need really just 2 constraints. You don't need 4 like we added here. you really only need 2. 4 is essential when you really fancy centering the content of that widget. So for now, for this text view, let's just add only 2 constraints, one to the left here and one to the top, and then we can drag it over. Okay, like I said, the major difference between this and this is that this one is more flexible, but this one, as you can see, is hard-coded. But ultimately you really only need 2. The 4 constraints is necessary when you want some advanced scaling when it comes to the location. So we have this set, the text view. Now let's adjust the visual for it. So let's call this message board. Enter. Let's change the text color. Where is our text color? There we go. Where is black? I'm just gonna type black, and it's gonna show up. See that? Black. Enter. And then text style bold. Then text appearance, we want it to be large. Okay. All right. Then let's center it. To do that, I'm going to click this one, and then up here I'm going to search for gravity, and I click it, and then where is my options? Yeah, so click it and then click center. Boom. So what that did is going to center this message, the text view, vertically and horizontally. Watch, I'm going to uncheck it. It goes back up. When I check it, it comes to the center. So that's gravity. All right. I'm going to press X. So now we have our message on the text view, which is this. Text view displays text. It also displays the paragraphs, anything that has to do with text. So that's our text view, and this is our button. Now, notice that there is an option for ID here. And then if I click the text view, there is also an option for ID. So for the button, I'm going to assign it an ID of button 2, mainly because this will be launching screen 2. So I'm going to assign it an ID of button 2, and I'll press enter. I'll press enter. Then I'll click our text view, and then I'll just leave this as text view board, something like that. Text view board. Okay. It's essential we remember this, because we're going to be using this in a second. I don't know what this one left. Button 2. Refractor. Yeah. So so I just changed the IDs of this button and the text view. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and we're done with the design. We're going to go ahead now and actually use these buttons in our Java file. Okay, so I'm going to click our main activity.java, and then up here I'm going to import the text view and the button. So I'm going to say text view. Let's call it message board, semicolon, and then button, and we're going to call it screen 2 button. Okay, semicolon. Then here under the set content view, we're going to initialize this button with the IDs we specified in the XML file. And to do that, we will say so our message board equal to find view by ID. As you type, it's going to show up. Press enter and then say r.id dot, then you pass in that ID you created for the text view, if you remember. So for the text view, we had the ID of text view board. Okay, so we go back here and then we type in the ID text view board. You're gonna see it show up here just as you typed it. Okay, then select that and press semicolon. Then for the button, we're going to say screen 2 button equal to find view by ID r.id dot, we use that same ID we passed in for the button, which is button 2 was the ID, and then we say button 2. Okay, this step is very essential, otherwise your app will crash. So you must connect the widget. As long as you know you're gonna use the widgets, interact with it, you must do this connection. So now we have this connection made. The next thing we need to do is to write the code that responds when we click the button. To do that, we are going to come here before the last parenthesis. We're going to create a function or a method. And let's call this method, let's call it set click listeners. This is how we do it. Say public void set click listeners. There will be no parameters. So this is a method. The method is currently empty, it does nothing. And then it's inside this parameter that we are going, inside this button, this function that we are going to handle the clicks for our buttons. So inside here we will say message board, screen 2 button dot set on click. The suggestion comes up, the first one, just press enter, and then inside this parenthesis you just type this in on click listener, but you say new on click listener, and then it's that's first one, so just press enter and then it comes up. Let me do this one more time. So you say screen 2 button dot set on click listener, press enter, then inside the parameter say new on click listener. All right, so so it's in this parenthesis of this one, of this public void on click. This is where we handle the clicks. So here we want to first of all, here we want to say something that is going to show on the message board showing that we have clicked this button. So we're going to change the text on this message board when this button is clicked. So let's say message board dot set text, and then we pass in a text using quotes. We say screen 2 button clicked. Okay, all right, so this is it. This would show a message on our message board once the button is clicked. So the next thing is to do a quick test, run this app, and then we'll see. But before we do that, you must put this function in the onCreate method so that it actually gets triggered. So this set click listeners we created, you put it in the onCreate method. The onCreate method is the method that gets fired by Android once the screen is initialized. So that's why we are doing all the initializations inside this parenthesis of onCreate method. And that's also why we call this function set click listeners inside here, because that way every button we initialize and we respond to its clicks inside here will actually get responded to. Let's see. So let's run the app. So first, if this is your first time running an app on an emulator, you would need to create an AVD. AVD is an emulator. So here I already have one. If you don't already have one, just click Create Virtual Device. Select something that is not too powerful, otherwise it will slow down your computer. Something like maybe the Pixel 3. And then click Next and Next and Next until it's downloaded and ready to go. So I'm gonna go back now because I already have one. So, but that's how you do it. And once you have it set up, just come over here and select the one that you want. In my case, it's Pixel 3, and then click Run. So I'm gonna click Run now, and then the app would run. Okay, perfect. So right here I have an error. So remember when I told you about dealing with errors? So I'm going to, this is a perfect error. I'm going to Google this error so you can see what I mean by using Google to diagnose things, because these kinds of things would come up very often. Okay, even though I know the solution to this, but I'm gonna do a Googling so you see how to fix errors by Googling. All right, I'm gonna, oops, copy. So before I Google stuff, especially things that have to do with programming, I remove the special characters like this first parenthesis here, this quotes here, this colon here, this parenthesis here. Otherwise, it's going to really confuse Google. So then I press enter. I'm gonna click the first results because it's most related to what I'm looking for, and then the best answer is usually the one that has the most votes on Stack Overflow. So it says I should go to File, Project Structure, and change the JDK location to Embedded. Now, you may not get this error, but I'm just trying to show you how to use Google to fix a lot of your errors, because I can't teach you about all the errors in the world, but Google almost has all the answers because someone has gone through that. Okay, so again, you don't have to do this if you didn't get this error. File, file, project structure, SDK location, JDK, embedded. Okay, okay. So I just followed this instruction here on the best answer. Hopefully that would work. Now again, you may not need to do this on your side because you know different computers have different issues. All right, so the app is running now. That fixed my error. So I'm going to go ahead and test the app once it's done. Awesome, it's done. See, it says launch succeeded. So I'm going to find my emulator over here. As you can see, this is the app. It's running. So I'm going to click this button and hopefully it will update this text view here. Awesome. See, it says screen 2 button clicked. I probably need to reduce the text size or increase the text view size, but we have it. It says screen 2 button clicked. So that worked. All right. Now, the next thing we're going to do and the last thing we're going to do is to make this button launch a new screen. Remember I told you that every screen in Android is an activity. So this is an activity. So we're going to make this button launch a new screen, aka activity, we are going to create a new activity because right now we only have one. We only have one, so we need to create a new one. So to do that, we are going to right click on our main project folder, which is under Java, and then under our application ID. So I'm going to right click on that folder, new, and then I'll go to Android activity. Okay, and then under Android activity, I'll click empty activity again. Again, I said I choose empty activity because it's the simplest. Okay, so I'll click empty activity, and then we're going to call this screen 2. Screen 2. All right, this is activity screen 2. Everything looks good. So I'll click finish. Okay, so now screen 2 has been created, and here is the XML file, which is the design. It's generated it for us here, and this is our Java screen 2. Under the resources folder, you will also find under layout, you'll find the screen 2 as well. Find the screen 2 as well. So let me click it from here. So this is our screen 2. It's blank. I'm just gonna add a text view and call it screen 2 so that we know when we get there. This thing zooms too fast. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna expand this a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna increase I'm gonna call it screen 2. On the right side here, screen 2, enter. Then the text appearance, I want it to be large, and then I'm going to make this bold as well by clicking bold here, and then I'm going to center it. Okay, and to center it even further, like I said, you can search for gravity, then expand gravity and click center. True. Okay, all right. So the next thing we need to do is to add constraints that will hold this in place, and to do that is really simple. You can just drag from any corner, put it here, and then drag from, let me zoom this down. You can drag from here to the bottom of the screen, and then now you have a vertical and horizontal constraints. You can now freely drag it wherever you want safely. So now we have this done. So our screen 2 has been designed. Yay, it's a beautiful design. All right, maybe I should add some boundaries to this. Let me add a background color. Let's see, let's search for background color. How about let's see, orange, something orange. Yeah, you can really play with it as much as you want, doesn't really matter. Yeah, orange. Okay, that's done. So this is our text view, just screen 2. All right, let's go back. All right, so screen 2 is designed. Now let's go and launch this screen 2 from screen 1. So let's go to our main activity, which is our screen 1. And then from there, you remember we had this message board or set text to this. I'm going to go to the next line, and then I'm going to put the code that will launch screen 2. So I do have a snippet for this on the dock. So this is the snippets on phase 2 for launching a new screen. It's pretty simple. We create a new intent, passing the name of the activity we are currently on, and then the name of the activity we are going to, and then call the line starting tense. So I'm going to copy this code and then go to our project. I'm going to paste it in there, and I'm going to do some importing. Oh, by the way, whenever you see these suggestions, it simply means to press alternate enter depending on your configuration, or you can just let me undo it, or you can click on it and press Ctrl space for suggestions and then just click intent. It works the same way. And when this happens, it's gonna make an update to your import statements at the top here, where you can also delete it if it's the wrong one. So yeah, so at this space, I'm going to specify the activity I am on, which is main activity. That's where I am now. So I'm going to copy this and paste it here in the first parameter. So main activity dot this. Then we're going to specify the activity we want to launch. So that would be, if you remember, screen2.java. So I'm going to change this to screen2.java .class. So this is it. So this code should launch a new screen. Let's go ahead and test that out. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm going to run the app, this one. Terminate. That simply means I want to run the app from scratch. That means the app would be stopped and then to run again from scratch. This other button here would update the code in the app, while this one would stop the app and run it again. That's this button with the A, it's going to update the code. This one would stop the app and run it again. So it says launch succeeded. Let's test out our app. So this is our message board. Text changes, it launches a new screen 2. Remember, this is our text view. So I'm going to press back. So it goes back to screen 1. If I click this button again, it goes to screen 2. Press back. So this is how we launch a new screen in an activity, and this is how we make a button click. This is how we update a text view. It's really straightforward, and the good thing is we're going to keep on building on very basic concepts like this throughout this whole course. So make sure you follow along, practice. It's going to help you a lot. And one thing I would like to mention as well is the concept of commenting. This 2 slashes comments out the code. When you get rid of it, the code comes back. So if I run this app, this code won't run. Okay, so it's good to keep this in mind, the concept of commenting. So with that said, today we've covered a very basic overview of Android Studio, how to design your own app interface, the very basic form of it, an Android activity, an Android XML file, basic button clicks launching a new screen, and we have the Java and Kotlin snippets. So for your homework, simply just keep learning Java or Kotlin, whichever one you prefer, on Code Academy. This will continue to be your homework for the next couple of sessions until you're done with it. You need these languages to progress in this course, so keep learning it there, and I will catch you in the next one. Oh, and also in the next one, we're going to preload the 8 buttons, which we are going to then need for the rest of the course. All right, so I'll catch you in the next one.